Africa is changing very fast, and right now, cities across the continent are growing bigger, richer, and of course, more modern every single year. And they've got new airports, new technology hubs, new skyscrapers, and that is why today we are exploring Africa's fastest growing cities. And who knows, one of them could become the next Dubai. Of course, let's find out. And of course, let's start with Lagos, Nigeria, of course, the Africa's giant city. Lagos is already one of the largest cities in the world. More than 20 million people live there, and millions more are arriving every single year. So think of Lagos like a giant magnet. People come here for jobs, business, technology, entertainment. It is also home to huge industries like Nollywood, of course, Africa's massive movie industry. And new projects like Eco Atlantic City are building modern skyscrapers right by the ocean. Many people say Lagos could become Africa's business capital. Then next we have Nairobi, Kenya, of course, the Silicon Valley of Africa. Nairobi is famous for something exciting, and that is technology. In fact, people call it Silicon Savannah. Big global tech companies and tech startups are building offices here in Nairobi. Young developers are creating apps, fintech companies, and of course, digital businesses. So Nairobi is like a giant playground for innovation, of course, and when tech grows, cities grow with it. So now let's talk about Addis Ababa, the political capital of Africa. So this city is political heart of Africa, because it hosts the headquarters of African Union. Leaders from all over Africa travel here for meetings and big decisions. But that is not all. New railways, highways, and modern buildings are transforming the city quickly. So Addis Ababa is becoming a powerful economic hub of Africa. Now we visit Kigali, Rwanda, of course, Africa's cleanest rising city. So Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, is a small but mighty city. It is super clean, super safe, and of course, super organized. Some people call it the Singapore of Africa. The government has big plans to turn Kigali into a global conference and innovation center. New hotels, conventional centers, and the smart city projects are already appearing in Kigali. Many investors see Kigali as a future African success story. Then there is Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, of course, a coastal megacity. This beautiful coastal city is growing incredibly fast. Every year thousands of new businesses and people arrive here in Dar es Salaam, and ports, trade, and tourism are helping the city expand quickly. So some experts believe Dar es Salaam could soon become one of Africa's largest economic centers. And finally, don't forget Accra, Ghana. Of course, Accra is bustling with creativity, from fashion to music to tech. Of course, Accra is attracting investors and tourists from around the world. The city's skyline is changing fast, and of course, it is becoming a hot spot for digital nomad and entrepreneurs. So, that is all for this video, ladies and gentlemen.